The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thank you, and welcome to the COSE Web Ed webinar. Today's topic is COSE Compliance Solutions for Brokers and will be presented by Cheryl Perez and Rico Perez. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to go over a few housekeeping items. My name is Marissa, and I will be the webinar organizer for today. We want to make sure that today's presentation is extremely valuable for you, so we ask that you submit all questions by clicking on the question button in the control panel and typing your question. Your questions are only visible to me, and I will collect all submitted questions and do the question and answer with Cheryl and Rico at the end of their presentation. Now for the main event, I'd like to introduce Cheryl and Rico Perez. Cheryl is the founder and president of Big HR, Benefit Innovations Group, a leading human resources consulting and outsourcing firm focused on serving businesses throughout Northeast Ohio. With over 17 years of experience in the employee benefits and HR fields and reputation for her expertise and service excellence, Cheryl is proud to lead her team at Big HR in relieving clients of one of the most stressful yet most critical aspects of running a business by providing cost-effective HR support and compliance services to small and mid-sized businesses. Today, Cheryl's firm is the largest African-American female-owned HR consulting and compliance firm in the Cleveland area. Cheryl lives in Brecksville, where she and her husband raise their 6 children. In her leisure time, Cheryl loves gardening and shopping, as well as serving as a board member for a variety of nonprofit and community support organizations. Rico has over 20 years of experience in the field of healthcare. He has worked for the largest provider of voluntary benefits in the United States for over 10 years, 8 of which was in the training and management. As training coordinator for the state of Ohio, Rico was tasked with certifying over 200 associates in a corporate-sponsored training curriculum. Rico used this knowledge and experience to develop the current training curriculum used by the Big HR staff today and has conducted hundreds of trainings, both internal and external. He is a certified corporate trainer and has achieved certification in healthcare reform and makes providing his clients with detailed educational services on the Affordable Care Act and compliance issues his priority. His business philosophy is simple: provide consistent service to clients, and the relationships you develop will last a lifetime. Without further ado, I will now hand it over to Cheryl and Rico.
Thank you, Marissa. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'm very, very excited to be discussing COSE Compliance Solutions with everyone out there on the call today. And hopefully we won't take up too much of your time, but we are going to take the opportunity to kind of review what COSE Compliance Solutions is and the launch of that new program and how it's going to be able to help you and your clients. So because webinars can sometimes be so impersonal, I would like to add that my Bitmoji, Sherry, is going to be present throughout today's presentation. There she is down on the bottom of the screen. Hopefully everyone has an opportunity to see her. And one of the things that I love about Sherry is that she is kind of my alter ego. She's my presentation alter ego. And usually when you're making presentations, you know, they're kind of formal. And she really focuses on livening things up, but most importantly, she's kind of my keep it real buddy. So you'll notice when there's something really intense and when there's really an expression that I'd like to make that I may not be able to make, Sherry will pop up and make sure that we're all on the same page. So, and then you also kind of have a visual of me, despite the fact that we're on the phone today. So welcome everyone to our call. We do have quite a bit of an agenda to go over, but I am going to make sure that it's only going to take us between 35 and 45 minutes to get through the real true core of things, and so we can allow for an opportunity for questions at the end. But we are going to take the opportunity to introduce COSE Compliance Solutions, why we are embarking upon this program, and who is going to be eligible for it. We also want to make sure that everyone on the call understands their clients' responsibilities, and we're going to touch base on ERISA Cafeteria 125 plan documents and ACA notices that are all a part of the COSE Compliance Solution package. We will introduce that package, talk about our services, the pricing and costs, how you will be compensated in the appointment process and the certification process, as well as give you guys some insight into what we're going to be doing moving forward from a marketing and enrollment process, and then allow an opportunity for questions and feedback. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I'd like to introduce you to COSE Compliance Solutions, provided by the Council of Smaller Enterprises and supported by BIGHR. And a lot of you might be wondering, why are we doing this COSE Compliance Solutions? And why is COSE putting this opportunity and putting this package together for all of its members? Well, the fact of the matter is your clients are responsible for staying in compliance with federal and state laws. And as the administrator of their own welfare plans, you guys are probably already aware, but they are responsible for quite a bit of notifications. And really from a human resource perspective, it's like when you add benefits to your benefits package, it's very similar from a small or medium-sized employer perspective as when you go from a 1099 employee to a W-2. 1099, a lot easier of an employee to have. When you switch them to W-2, there's lots of responsibilities and rules and regulations that come into play, and your benefit package is no different. So your clients are responsible for staying in compliance, and they are provided with these expectations when they enroll in the COSE MEWA and when they enroll in the program overall. And a part of that is they're provided with the COSE Compliance Guide, which they are required to confirm that they've received, and it does provide them with the details of their responsibilities and requirements. They usually receive a copy of that upon enrollment, and they also have access to it when they go to cosemewa.org. And the guide is provided to ensure that they know what they're subject to, and what their responsibilities are, all of the notifications and things that they have to actually give to their employees. And they want to make sure that in that guide that all of their clients and all of the MEWA members are aware of what they're responsible for, and to make sure that they are in compliance with federal and state laws. So also benefits compliance, they're provided with some templates, they're provided with some tools in order to support them through their compliance process. But what we found since the COSE MEWA has rolled out was that most of them have not really taken advantage of these tools. They're not utilizing them. And so that leaves us to being able to conclude that most likely they've not completed their requirements and they're in non-compliance. We have received feedback from members in simply asking, have you delivered the documents? Some of them believe they have, some of them are not sure if they have. And quite frankly, some of them have said, yeah, I believe my broker is taking care of that for me. And we did kind of do a bit of a pilot at the beginning of this year. And we got a lot of feedback from not just the MEWA members, but also from the brokers, that these things were really not being done. And so that put up a red flag. And as you know, COSE is here to really be able to provide the support that the members need, not only with their benefit package, but also with all of the compliance that surrounds that benefit package. We do not want the COSE MEWA members or COSE members who have the benefits in general to put themselves at risk for the costly fines and penalties that can arise when you're not in compliance with benefits. And benefits compliance, it's very complicated. It's very complex. It involves document creation and distribution and adoption and verification. And oftentimes it's a lot for small business owners who are really trying to focus on growing their businesses. They are involved very heavily in the day-to-day functioning of their businesses. And so it's very difficult for them to maintain knowing all of the complexities surrounding their benefits package. And so they rely on partners in order to help facilitate that support. And they really do need the help. They need the peace of mind so that they can focus on their businesses, and they really don't need to worry about all of the additional things that comes along with offering it, which is oftentimes why they partner with you, with their broker. And oftentimes, because we've been doing benefits for a very long time, benefits compliance with small and medium-sized businesses, they really do rely on that direction and that support. And oftentimes they have no idea what they're really responsible for. So what we found was, even though they're provided with the information about what they're subject to, even though they're provided with the guide that gives them details about what they're subject to, and they're also provided with templates and tools, they're still not aware of how to utilize all of this material and how to make sure that they're in compliance with where they need to be. And from your perspective, you do a great job at shopping their plans, finding them, pricing them, and then proposing great benefit plan options to them. And you advise them on which plan option is going to be a good fit that meets their business, but is it really enough? Is there something that's missing? And what we found was, yes, you're already doing the work, but you also have to participate in assisting them with their compliance needs. They rely on your expertise, your partnership. They oftentimes turn to you. And because we did receive during our pilot lots of phone calls, lots of questions from brokers asking, where can I have access to being able to provide my clients with this? And that pilot really did give us the insight that we needed in order to be able to put the program together and determine this service is needed, and to be able to take this off of everyone's plate and do it for them was something critical that we wanted to be able to provide, because there is a ton of compliance out there, as you guys know. We're going to be focusing on the ERISA requirements, the ACA notices, the cafeteria plan documents, but you all know that there's also COBRA and there's state continuation, and there's a ton of other compliance related to benefits that your clients are responsible for. And ultimately, even though you're assisting them, they are the administrator of their plans, and so they will ultimately be the ones held accountable. So these are things that your clients are responsible for, and most likely they're expecting you to make sure that they're doing them. Whether they've said so to you directly or not, a lot of the feedback that we constantly receive from small to medium-sized businesses is, it's already being taken care of from my broker. They're already doing it, or COSE's already taking care of it for me. And it's a very complicated process. So we wanted to make sure that you too had the resources and the tools that you need to be able to say, yes, we are taking care of that for you. And we do not want them to be involved in a DOL audit, or to face some fines and fines and penalties, and then ultimately turn to you and say, why do I have these fines? You're not doing a great job, or COSE isn't doing a great job, and I needed the assistance. So that is why we're offering COSE Compliance Solutions. So let's talk a little bit about what your clients' responsibilities are. And some of this information may be repetitive for some of you. Some of you may have already known the details of this information, and some of you, this might be really the first time that it's been explained to you in depth. So we're going to touch today on what the responsibilities and requirements truly are when it comes to ERISA, when it comes to the Cafeteria 125 plan documents, and when it comes to the Affordable Care Act notices. And that's a really tricky one. A lot of times people, in thinking about ACA and the Affordable Care Act, thinks, well, it really only applies to a certain size employer group, and those employer groups are over 50, and so it really doesn't make a difference if you're smaller than 50. But that really truly is a fallacy. There's a lot of requirements that still exist for groups all the way down to 2 employees. And so we're going to touch on those today as well. So what is ERISA? A lot of people, think of it as strictly a retirement law, because it is called the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. It's been around since 1974, so it's not a new law. It didn't just come to fruition, but it's really a federal law that sets the minimum standards for most voluntary established pension and health plans. And a lot of people have thought of it as it only governs the retirement piece. But ultimately, it does require compliance from all health and welfare plans. And so if anyone wants details and actually wants to do some reading on it, in the event that one night you might be having some insomnia and you want to get relaxed, you could totally check out the United States Department of Labor website. It's very detailed there. But the Retirement Income Security Act of 1974 has been around since then, and its primary focus is really to tell employers, these are your responsibilities when you decide to offer retirement plans, or when you decide to offer health and welfare plans. These are the things that we need you to do in order to protect your employees and to provide them with the information and education that they need to understand their rights and responsibilities when they're enrolled in a health and welfare plan. And that's really the essence. So it does require employers who offer benefits to educate the employees. It puts the onus on the employer. It's your job to give the employees this information. It also provides fiduciary responsibilities for those who manage and control plan assets or retirement plans. But it also gives the employee the ability to understand that there is a grievance and appeals process that they can have, that they have a right to, in the event that they feel that something is going wrong with their benefit plan, or that they're not eligible for something, or that they haven't been extended an offer to continue their coverage. So the main segments of ERISA are defined benefit pension plans, defined contribution plans, COBRA, HIPAA, and then we are going to be focusing today on the welfare benefit plans aspect of ERISA. So all of those things are encompassed in the plan, in the law, and it actually did
Cheryl,
have some tweaks. Yes?
I am so sorry to interrupt you during your presentation. I just wanted to let you know that we're unable to see the slides except for the very first one.
Oh, I apologize.
No
Let's see.
problem. Yeah.
Hmm. Let's see if that's changed.
Okay,
Can you
perfect. I
can you see
see,
it
yep,
now?
and I believe it's on the slide that you originally, or that you should be on currently. Correct.
Segments of ERISA?
Correct, yes.
Okay,
Thank you so much,
perfect.
and I apologize for the interruption.
I am sorry about that. I didn't realize you guys couldn't see what I could see.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So the segments of ERISA, as I began to say, that is involved in the plan and the law, is defined benefit plan, pension plans, defined contribution plans, and COBRA and HIPAA. And we are going to be focused on the welfare benefit plans today. So let's talk a little bit about those welfare benefit plans, and some examples of what the benefit plans that are governed under ERISA include. They are pertain to medical plans, dental and vision plans, cafeteria plans, dependent care, health flexible spending accounts, health FSAs, short and long-term disability plans, and group life insurance plans. A lot of folks don't realize that all of those types of plans are governed under ERISA. So if you have one of those plans in your clients, or if your client is offering any of those things, they are subject to the requirements of ERISA, and they must follow the law or they could be in noncompliance. And the plans that must comply, and just in a little bit more detail, include medical, surgical, or hospital care plans, your dental and your vision, your health FSAs. HRAs are also included under the law. Wellness and EAP programs are also included under the law. If there's a severance insurance policy, any voluntary benefits under Section 125 of the IRS code, and then sickness, accident, disability, death, or unemployment benefits must also comply with ERISA. There are some exceptions. Most of those types of plans are exempt unless they are provided on a pre-tax basis and they are in some way, shape, or form endorsed by the employer. So when you think about sickness, accident, disability, I'm talking about some of those worksite types of plans, your AFLAC, your Colonials, your Allstates. Those may fall under ERISA if they are under a Cafeteria 125 plan, so they're coming out on a pre-tax basis, or if they have some type of endorsement from the employer. Those too must comply with ERISA. So when we're talking about ERISA compliance, what exactly do we mean? And the law is full of lots of information, lots of requirements, as you know, COBRA, the specifics surrounding that. Many states have adopted state continuation, which is kind of mini COBRA. Actually, I think the majority of states are doing mini COBRA at this point. But the primary compliance rules surrounding the health and welfare plans that we just are looking at right now and that we just mentioned are the ERISA documentation. And that's really where we get into the core of those penalties and those fines and being in noncompliance. The essentials of the ERISA documentation as required under the law include a wrap or plan document. So that's a governing document. And it also includes the summary of that governing document or the summary plan descriptions, also known as SPDs. And then it also includes the summaries of material modifications. Those are SMMs, and those are summaries of any changes that may take place to those wrap or plan documents. So a lot of times people only think of ERISA documentation as the SPDs. Well, in reality, it includes these three primary documents that are considered to be the essentials of ERISA documentation. And that overreaching plan document that spells out what's going on within that plan, and we'll talk a little bit about the difference between a wrap document and just a general plan document, but that is a basis that is established for all employer welfare plans if they're being offered for 2 or more employees, and then the summary plan descriptions summarize that governing document. So let's talk a little bit about what that governing document is. And there might be some missing pieces in there for your clients or for you. The WRAP document is a legally required document for employers offering or changing any kind of pre-tax benefit that's being provided, or a health and welfare plan that's being provided. The document can vary based upon the types of benefit offered. And the difference between a general plan document and an all-encompassing WRAP document is really a WRAP document will include all the health and welfare plans that are being provided. If you don't have a WRAP document, then you should have a plan document in place for every type of benefit that's being provided to employees. So you either have the option to have an individual plan document for every single thing. So if you're offering medical insurance, you have a plan document for it. If you're offering dental insurance and vision, you have a plan document for those. If you're offering disability, you have a plan document for those. Or you can have a WRAP document, which will include all of those plans. It will summarize, it will put out the details, it will also discuss the plan documentation of available benefits, how they'll be funded. It will talk about a standard review of benefit decisions. It will name the fiduciary. It will include any plan amendments and termination procedures. And then it will also include details surrounding the provisions of COBRA, HIPAA, special enrollments, and USERA. So if you have a WRAP document, it will include all of that information around all of the benefits being provided. Otherwise, you have to have a plan document, which will include all of those things, but only for the specific benefit that it governs. So obviously, it's a lot more encompassing if you provide a WRAP document to your client. Otherwise, they can be in compliance in one aspect of their plan, but in non-compliance of a different aspect, especially if they're offering more than one type of plan option. So beyond that WRAP document, this is the summary plan description, or the SPDs, is where a lot of people focus their attention when it comes to ERISA. And it's true, the summary plan description is critical because this is the piece that is designed to provide that ERISA requirement that the employer educate and inform the employee. It basically summarizes that plan document or that WRAP document, and each employee is required to receive that SPD. So the SPD is a smaller document. Usually when we provide it to clients, or even in the COSE Compliance Solution package that we'll be putting forward, it will be a booklet and it will summarize that larger WRAP document that usually comes in a binder. But it must be provided to all participants covered under the plan, or any plans. So let's say you have an employee that doesn't have the medical, they've waived the medical insurance, but they have taken advantage of the dental and the vision insurance. They should also receive an SPD. It should also be provided to any COBRA participants, or any state continuation participants. It should also be provided to parents or guardians of a child who is covered under a qualified medical child support order. So even if it doesn't have, if an employee is covering a child, then that child's parent, custodial parent, needs to receive a copy of this summary plan description. It should also be provided to spouses of deceased retirees who remain entitled to benefits. And then also there are some specific foreign language requirements as well. If there are certain percentages of the employees that do have a primary language other than English, ERISA does require that plan documents and summary plan descriptions be provided in that language. It must be provided within 90 days after a participant first becomes covered under the plan. And that's a critical time frame, because technically the employee should receive that summary plan description within 90 days of enrolling, as soon as they become effective under the plan document. So if it's a January 1st, the SPDs must be in the employee's hands before really the end of that first quarter, by the time the end of March rolls around, before April 1st. And there's no exception for the summary plan description. So this is where ERISA kind of goes down all the way down to 2 employees or more should be offering these summary plan descriptions. A lot of people confuse this document with the Summary and Benefits of Coverage, or the SBC, which was a newer document that's required under the Affordable Care Act. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on when we get into ACA notices. But those are different than the SPD. And we see a lot of clients and a lot of small, medium-sized employers say, well, no, my employees do get this document. And then they whip out this SBC. And, unfortunately, we have to say, no, this is you are required to provide this, but there is a different document that you're also required to provide. So the summary material modification, or SMMs, it too must be provided to participants covered under the plan, COBRA participants, parents or guardians covered under a qualified medical child support order, and the spouse of deceased retirees. And those must be provided within 60 days after a participant has a material reduction in covered services. And a lot of questions, I oftentimes when I do this presentation for various folks, I get, well, what's considered a material reduction in covered services? And really, the government, it's a gray area, but they basically say, anything that a prudent person would perceive as being a reduction in covered services. Anytime an employee perceives that they're having a reduced coverage, then they should be provided with an SMM. And I know you guys understand, as brokers working in the field for a number of years, it seems like every single year, if a deductible changes or if an employee contribution goes up, an employee is going to perceive a reduction in covered services, even if you've done your due diligence and found the best, richest plan you can. That perception is what this applies to. And so it's a gray area, but it really is left up to the employee's perception. So we want to make sure that for us, we just say, more is better than less. Anytime there's a change in the plan, we make sure that there's a summary material modification. So if the plan copay changes, or the percentage, the coinsurance changes, or the deductible changes, or the employee contribution changes, a summary material modification needs to be provided. And it's really truly a notice. It's a notice that can be provided that says, hey, this is what has changed in the plan that you have available. These are the changes that apply to that summary plan description and our overall plan documents that we have. And again, there's no exceptions for any size group, 2 or more employees. You also need to make sure that summary material modifications are going out, most likely each year during renewal is when we send those out. So what does all this mean? What are the penalties for ERISA? And there's been a lot of talk back and forth about whether or not there are truly penalties, and whether or not, the government can really hold people accountable. And it has been a law that's been in place for a very long time. It's true. The Department of Labor has really, there's a lot of talk out there about them beefing up their audits and why audits are taking place more now than ever. And what's the likelihood of a small or medium employer really being held accountable for it? And honestly, it's up in the air. It's just like talking about, your car insurance, whether or not you're going to really have an accident, or when was the last time you did, and you want to make sure you have that protection in place. We have seen, since the Affordable Care Act rolled out, that Department of Labor audits are on the rise, because the Department of Labor is now working in conjunction with HHS as well as the IRS. Back in the day, they really didn't talk to each other. I don't think that, and as you know, sometimes the government agencies don't really talk to each other. But with the enactment of the Affordable Care Act, those 3 departments really began working very closely together, because they govern, with respect to the Affordable Care Act, all of those things. So the IRS and HHS have really gotten involved in the benefits side of things, and the Department of Labor is the driving force behind it. And so with that being said, in searching for other penalties and things of non-compliance for ACA, it can prompt a complete look at what the Department of Labor is looking for. And so they're saying that small and medium-sized businesses are targeted more often, but what are the types of things that can really trigger an audit? We've had more clients in the last 18 months that have gone through a Department of Labor audit than ever before in our history. And oftentimes, it's triggered because of an IRS audit, which we know those are a lot more common than DOL audits. But because, again, the departments are communicating with one another, if the IRS is going in to do a financial audit, oftentimes the DOL will be notified, or the HHS will be notified, and they can also institute an audit. So sometimes that triggers it. Also, wage and labor violations, those oftentimes trigger a Department of Labor. So if an employee, contacts and makes a complaint that they haven't received some overtime that they thought they were entitled to, or that their time card was incorrect, those types of things are also triggering more in-depth Department of Labor audits. And so we just want to make sure that when the Department of Labor comes in, they're going to send out a letter 2 to 3 weeks in advance with a list of documents that they're going to want to see, and they're going to come on site and they're going to go through those documents. And oftentimes on that list, it includes, okay, you're offering a health and welfare plan. We want to see a copy of your summary plan descriptions. We want to see proof that you've sent those out. We want to make sure that your employees have received those things. And so oftentimes those are included. So there's all kinds of things that are more common that will trigger this audit. So you want to make sure that your employees and your employer groups are in the loop and are in compliance just in the event that they are. But the general enforcement of ERISA noncompliance, it includes the documentation. There can be criminal penalties. There's oftentimes, penalties for daily non-compliance, for failing to provide a copy of the SPDs. An employee can request a copy of it, and if you do not provide it to them within a certain time frame, you're going to face a per-day charge. And also, if there is, with the more detailed scrutiny surrounding retirement plans, that's also another reason why we wanted to make sure that employer groups have these things in place, because if they are offering a retirement plan of any kind and there's so much scrutiny being put in place for those right now, any of those things can kind of create an audit, which can uncover some compliance issues that your clients might be facing. So some common ERISA penalties to avoid. There was a $10,560 penalty for Bank of America for failure to send a summary plan description on a timely basis after a plan participant made 3 written requests. They just didn't have the document. There was a $17,000 penalty for First Reliance because they failed to produce the SPD to the participant, thinking that the certificate of insurance and the SBC was enough. And then there was a $62,000 penalty for Allied Signal because they failed to provide a summary plan description to the participant in the appropriate manner as it is required by the Department of Labor. And how those things are provided is important as well. So what are some of the needed compliance and ERISA services that small and medium-sized employers have based upon all the stuff that we just talked about? Really, obviously, they need to be provided with ERISA facts to help them understand the requirements of ERISA and help them understand what to do and what happens if an employer requests anything, and to make sure that they're providing their employees with the education and information. They also oftentimes need ongoing ERISA consulting and support, because things do come up, especially for small and medium-sized employers. They usually come up when an employee is going through a termination and they're leaving, and then that employee who nowadays are way more educated than they were in the past, and they're more concerned about their health coverage, they begin asking questions like, do I get coverage continued, or what do I do in order to continue my coverage? And those types of questions they need help through. They also need the creation of their ERISA WRAP plan document, their summary plan descriptions, and their summary of material modifications. And the distribution is the key. Most of our clients and most small and medium-sized businesses, even if they have that WRAP document, and even if they have the summary plan descriptions in place, if they aren't actually distributing them to the employees as per federal ERISA laws and guidelines, they will still be in non-compliance. And the ERISA guidelines really do say you should furnish via first-class mail. You can also do it second and third-class mail, but it's more difficult to prove and to provide a certificate of mailing. So we do recommend furnishing it via first-class mail, the plan participant guides and SPDs to all of the enrolled employees and all new hires as they become enrolled in your plan. There's questions surrounding, well, can they be provided electronically? Yes, they can be provided electronically with some very specific rules and regulations. Specifically, you have to be able to ensure that the employee received it. You have to be able to prove it. You also have to make available to them access to computers and access to a system. They have to have education on how to access if you post them on an intranet or you put them into a system. There's all kinds of rules surrounding if you do provide it electronically, then what you can and cannot do and what they should have access to. But most importantly, the employee has to sign off that they're okay receiving it electronically. And most small and medium-sized businesses during their onboarding and orientation processes are not getting employees to sign off and say, yes, it's okay for you to give me everything electronically. Here's my email and here's how often I check it. So the easiest thing to avoid, any kind of breach or any kind of non-compliance for distribution is just to make sure that they go out in first-class mail and that you have proof that they were mailed out. That's important. You can also hand them out. I get questions about that all the time. Can you just physically give them to the employee? Yes, as long as you have them signing off that they've received it. That is also an option. But again, the easiest way to be able to protect the employer and to say, yes, it was sent out, we did provide it, and it follows ERISA laws is through first-class mail with certificates of mailing. Your end clients will also need someone to maintain the proof of records. They need to make sure that they are maintaining the proof that those things have been sent out, they've been provided to the employees. They also need to make sure that any kind of changes are processed in the plan documents and in the SPDs. And then generally, we find that they just need some support. And as Sherry is pointing out down there, it seems like a lot. So everybody, just chill. It's okay. That's a part of the reason why COSE Compliance Solutions and the compliance package is being provided. So we also want to touch base on some of the responsibilities under the Affordable Care Act. And this is where Sherry gets really sensitive because the Affordable Care Act really, has done a number on a lot of us out there, including our small and medium-sized employers, because, there are some basic things that apply to them. So it's kind of like a huge punch in the face. But under the Affordable Care Act, the retirement and welfare benefit plans have some basic requirements. There's also additional disclosure requirements for welfare benefit plans that are group health plans. And then there's also additional disclosure requirements for retirement plans under the Affordable Care Act. So there's a whole slew of special health care notices that need to be provided to the employees, and it can be varied based upon the group size, but the most comprehensive way to provide these special healthcare notices is to customize them, because some of them do require specific plan information and plan details to be included in them. But there's the Women's Health and Cancer Care notice, the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act notice, the Employer Children's Health Insurance Program notice for certain states, Michelle's Law notice, the Medicare Part D credible coverage disclosure, and then there's also the Genetic Information and Non-Discrimination Act notice, in addition to the summary benefits of coverage, or the SBCs, that everyone is a lot more familiar with. So all of these special healthcare notices are supposed to be provided to employees, and it kind of gives them their rights under each of these separately. They each include different information, they include different details, but a lot of them are customized to meet the needs of the employer and of the employees, and describing the specifics surrounding the employer's plan. Also, cafeteria plans. This is an area that a lot of small and medium-sized employers, are confused about, and they're oftentimes missing this document. So a cafeteria plan, it's also known as a Section 125 plan. It's a legal tax document that provides employees an opportunity to receive their benefits on a pre-tax basis. So if they're contributing, it basically says to the employer, you're taking money out of your employees' paychecks to pay for various health and welfare benefit plan options that you're offering them. This document entitles you to being able to take these benefit deductions out on a pre-tax basis. And it also provides certain laws to give these employees the information that they need that says, hey, these are your special enrollment periods. Once you're enrolled, this is when you can make changes. Every year during open enrollment, you're allowed to make these changes, and you're entitled to, by law, to be given the opportunity to get updates and information. So cafeteria 125 plans do encompass premium only plans, so that just talks about the premium deduction. They also can kind of touch on flexible spending accounts and dependent care assistant plans. And so they must meet specific requirements and regulations, which generally include the development of a written plan document. And that's where most small and medium-sized employers have the most difficulty. They don't have the written plan document. And I've actually had clients say, well, I think my payroll company does it for me. And oftentimes they're mistaken. You know, your payroll company doesn't just automatically do it for you just because you've told them that there are deductions coming out of your employee's pay on a pre-tax basis. They don't ever require a copy of that document. I'm sure that some payroll companies do, but the majority don't. They take your word for it as the employer. If you say this is coming out on a pre-tax basis, they will take it out on a pre-tax basis. It doesn't mean that they have created this cafeteria 125 plan document, this legal document for the employer or for their client. If a payroll company says that they are creating it, as the broker, you would know, because they do need specific information surrounding the plan in order to create this plan document. And I would always recommend to both the broker and to the employer, get a copy of that Cafeteria 125 plan document. You have to have it, because if an employee wants to see it, that you have to, by law, provide them with the opportunity to view it. And it is a plan. It's a legal document. It's a paper that describes the benefits, establishes the rules of eligibility in their elections, and it's also designed to make sure that everybody understands that the plan itself, those pre-tax deductions, do satisfy non-discrimination testing with respects to certain highly compensated and key employees. It wants to make sure that those folks aren't the only folks being offered certain plans, and so it's designed to make sure that there's no discrimination taking place in the plan. So, and that's something that a lot of employers are missing. They take out the pre-tax deductions, but they don't have a hard copy document in place that says we're allowed to take out these pre-tax deductions. And oftentimes with this Cafeteria 125 plan, this is a side note that I oftentimes educate brokers on, is, you know, there should be, a lot of times employers believe that if they get a waiver from an employee, that it satisfies their responsibilities under the Cafeteria 125, Section 125 plan rules. And in reality, waiving the coverage does not mean that they are waiving pre-tax election. That really comes in the form of a salary redirection agreement. So there needs to be specific terminology in that waiver that states, I understand that I'm waiving my benefit, but I'm also understanding that I'm waiving my right to pre-taxing of that benefit. It's really two different waivers. So let's talk about what COSE Compliance Solutions is going to be doing in order to provide assistance with all of these things, because it's a mouthful. It's a lot of work, but it's something that is required and that your clients really do need. So let's talk about the services and who's eligible first. Who is going to be eligible for this new service? Well, COSE members with benefits through COSE are going to be eligible, and all COSE MAWA groups are going to be eligible. Your members can access it through you, their brokers, or directly through COSE Compliance Solutions. They can do it either way. So if you don't want to be involved in that process and you just want to let them know, hey, I'm aware of it. Yes, you need it. No, we're not currently doing it. Or, you know, we were doing it, but we need to, you know, to be more detailed. They can actually access it directly or through you. So they have both of those options available to them. Each COSE MAWA member and general member will have access to a basic compliance package, and each member will have an annual payment option. There's a one-time fee for the package, and it does cover them annually. It covers them for the whole year. So what's included in this basic compliance package? The annual price is $525. It does include the ERISA wrap document and binder creation with the employer guide. The wrap plan document for all the plans and SPDs will be included for the employer's records. And when I say the document will include all plans, it will include any plan that the client is offering, even if it's not a COSE or medical mutual plan. The ERISA wrap document. So if you are providing them with an accident plan from a different provider or different carrier, or a disability plan, the wrap document that will be created for you will include that plan as well. So it will be a comprehensive wrap document, and they will receive a binder which will include it, because it's a very thick document. It also includes the certificates of insurance and certificates of coverage and all of them, and they will receive the employer guide for them to be able to refer to frequently asked questions. It will also include the summary plan description and their renewal summary material modification update. So automatically, when your clients plan renew January 1st, an SMM will be generated for that plan change, and it will include employee distribution. So we will send out the SPDs and SMMs to the employees via first class mail with the certificate of mailing documentation stored. So we will have that proof. It will also create for them custom ACA notices, booklets, for them to be able to distribute electronically. The ACA notices can be distributed electronically. They do not have to go out in first class mail. So that booklet will be created. The employers will be encouraged to either print that document and hand it out to their employees, or to actually email it to all of them. And we also usually tell our clients, make sure that that booklet is automatically included in any orientation materials, because some of those notices don't require the employee to be enrolled in anything in order for them to receive them. And we will do it by client size. So it's just kind of that booklet for them to now include in their orientation and onboarding materials when they give out benefits information or whatever. When a new hire comes on board, they can give them that notice. And then it will also include the creation of a custom cafeteria 125 plan, premium only document. So it will get them in compliance if they're making a pre-tax deduction for an employee's contribution to any kind of benefit plan that's being offered. And it will also include new hire distribution services. So as a new hire comes on board, as a broker, when you are informed that there's a new hire and someone that needs to be added to their plan, you will notify us, and we will send out the SPD to that new hire as well within 90 days of their being enrolled in that. I'm sorry, within 90 days of them being enrolled in that benefit plan option. The pricing will not change if someone comes to COSE Compliance Solutions directly, or if they go through you, their broker, the price will not change. So we're going to keep it consistent in order not to create kind of a competitive environment where your clients will want to go directly without going through you. Ultimately, we really do want them to utilize you as their partner to be able to get this done, because that's really the role that they see you in. And so whether they go through you or not, they're going to be paying the same price. So it just makes sense for them to work directly with you as their partner. So what is it going to take for you guys to be able to sell these services and begin to add them to your clients and for your clients? You have to be certified in order to sell COSE Compliance Solutions. And the certification process is very, very easy. There's really only 3 steps. First step is watching this webinar. So you are halfway there just by being on today's webinar. Anyone who's not on today's webinar will have access to reviewing the webinar. After the fact, it will be posted through a website for them to be able to watch. And once they complete the webinar, you will all be sent today a follow-up email message that will include a link to a follow-up test. It's a brief test. I think it's only about 14 or 15 questions. You do have to pass that test with an 80% or better in order to be able to be certified. But once you pass that test, you are certified. So you watch the webinar, you pass the test. Once we receive notification that that test has been passed, then within a day, you will actually receive an email with an electronic link for you to complete an appointment application. And that appointment application will come back to our team. Your appointment agreement will be created, and you will actually receive another emailed link for you to be able to complete your final appointment process. And yes, you are going to be compensated for this service. We would not ask you to sell anything that you're not going to be compensated for, so there is compensation included in this. So again, once you successfully pass your certification test, you'll receive an email to complete the basic appointment application. Then you will receive once we get that back, you'll receive an electronic appointment agreement along with a W-9 and a direct deposit enrollment form for you to complete and send back. And once we receive that, you will officially be appointed with BIGHR, and we are the COSE Compliance Solution provider, and you will be eligible for commission processing. and you will be paid a flat $100 per COSE Compliance Solution package sold, and it will be sent to you via direct deposit the beginning of the month following the month that the sale has taken place, and you will also receive a commission statement along with any sales of any packages that you have done. So for instance, during the month of May, if you sell 10 packages to clients, then you will receive that $1,000 at the beginning of June. It's usually by the second Friday of every month, you will receive for the previous month's commission. And again, it's a flat $100 per COSE Compliance Solution package sold. So what has been going on with regards to it? What to expect? You know, how many calls should you expect? How many people are going to reach out to you? How many of your clients are going to contact you, and how and what are they going to receive? We want to make sure that you're aware of what the marketing process looks like and the schedule and the rollout. At the beginning of today's presentation, I talked to you guys that in February, in March, we did a handful of COSE MEWA members from a pilot perspective. They received pilot information and invitations, and based upon the feedback and the surveys and the responses and the phone calls, we were able to complete that process and finalize the package, the pricing, and the processes for including the brokers in this process, and also making sure that the employer groups were receiving what they needed and that the COSE members were. So full rollout will begin between May 1st and May 10th. There will be snail mail letters that will be sent out to all of COSE MEWA members, and there will be emailed letters that will be sent out to existing COSE MEWA members. So they will receive a letter in the mail, and then a few days later they will receive a follow-up email. In that email, there will include some links for them to access the information, and you guys will also, if you're certified, you will also receive that email, and new members will receive the communication between 30 and 45 days post their effective date. So as a new client of yours is enrolled in the COSE MEWA or enrolled in COSE, they will receive the same letter and the same email within 30 to 45 days effective in the plan. So you don't have to wait, though. If you're enrolling a member, you will have access as a certified broker. You will have access to being able to get them enrolled immediately if you'd like to. You also have a separate broker portal that I'm going to mention to you as well, but videos and information will also be provided on the COSE websites and at the COSE MEWA annual meeting that's coming up at the end of May. We'll be doing some compliance education for COSE MEWA members at that time as well. So the enrollment process and the expectations, how will your clients be able to enroll, or how will you be able to enroll your clients? Members can complete an application directly, or you can complete the application via the email communication, also via cosemewa.org, the compliance section, or once you are certified and appointed, you will have access to a special broker portal that will have its own application link and information in it for you as a broker. Clients can also call or email COSE Compliance Solutions. The telephone number is listed there. It's also going to be listed on cosemewa.org. And then there's also an email address there that clients or you can email. You will actually have your own broker support email as well, provided through your broker portal once you're appointed. And once their application is received, they will either begin going through the onboarding and package delivery process, or we will work directly with you. If the application includes a broker, or if it comes through a broker, you will be the primary point of contact for us to begin the onboarding process and package delivery. If your client comes directly, they will be the primary point of contact. And it's a very electronic process, so they will be sent things they can complete directly. It will go directly to our team for their package to be created, but there could be some additional information that's not included in the initial application that might be needed for the service team to ask questions about, and that's where the follow-up contact with you or the client directly will come into play. So what are your expectations, and what's your role in this entire process? Well, if you initiate the application process, The compliance team, again, will work directly with you to complete the application and gather any additional information required. So you will at that point be the coordinator of this compliance package. You will be able to email the designated COSE Compliance Solutions broker support team. And that email address is COSE Compliance Broker Support at bigbenefitsgroup.com. You'll also have access to it through cosemaywa.org and through your broker portal. Again, it's a very electronic process, and you will be kept in the loop as your client's package is processed and mailed out. Every step of the process, you will receive a copy of what your client receives that says, you know, your package is in the mail, your SPDs have been sent out, we're still waiting on this piece of information, don't forget to submit your signature page. So it's a very electronic process, but you will be completely involved in it. And you will also have access to a designated broker support portal and team once you are appointed with us. So hopefully I answered a lot of the questions that may have been looming for you over the past couple of months. Some of you have actually gotten some tidbits of information and have actually reached out to us to ask questions, and we kept saying we're working on it. We're kind of mapping things out. We wanted to make sure that we were providing a service that was going to be comprehensive for both you and for your clients and for all of the members. And we think that, you know, we've done a good job with that. But obviously, as we continue to move forward, as you have additional needs or questions, we want to make sure that we're there to support you just as much as we are to support the COSE Maywa. So with that being said, I am going to open it up and ask Marissa to chime in for any questions or feedback.
Yeah, so we did have a question. With the compliance package offerings, does COSE assume liability should an employer be audited?
That's a very good question. No, COSE does not assume liability. Actually, because BIGHR is providing the service, liability with regards to whether or not a compliance package, whether or not an employer is in compliance with ERISA, really depends upon what years they're auditing, what the document itself that we're going to be producing covers. From the time that the document will be effective, BIGHR will be assisting clients through any kind of auditing process. So they will be in compliance from that date moving forward, which is important to get documents created pretty quickly. But if there's a DOL audit, because BIGHR is the provider, BIGHR is assuming responsibility for those documents. So for instance, if there's a DOL audit, oftentimes they may ask for the last 5 years of documentation. Well, if their document that we're putting in place for them, and this compliance package isn't effective until June 1st of 2018, then they're going to have coverage and BIG will be there to assume responsibility from June 1st of 2018. We will not be, however, assuming responsibility for previous years prior to when that plan becomes effective. But BIGHR is the company that's going to be providing it, so we will be the ones that will be assuming that compliance responsibility from the date that the plan is effective, and from the date that the actual plan document goes into effect based upon when we receive that signature page on the document.
Thank you, Cheryl. That was the only other question that we had, other than a few people interested in receiving the slides afterward, which we will definitely send out. So with that all being said, I want to thank Cheryl and Rico for being on this webinar with us and for sharing this valuable information to all of the attendees. And thanks to everyone else for attending the webinar. Your feedback is very important to us, so we ask that you complete a brief survey, which will be sent to you shortly. The survey will also include a link to the quiz, so feel free to, you would just simply copy and paste that into a new browser, and you'll be able to access that quiz. That concludes our session now, so thank you again, and I hope you guys have a good day. Actually, it looks like somebody has their hand raised. So hold on for me just a moment.
Sure.
So for the individual who has their hand raised, I'm not seeing you in the system, but if you have a question within the next minute or so, if you could type that into the question box, I'd be able to ask that on your behalf. Okay. So let me just get to this last question that we have here.
Okay.
So it looked like we had another question coming in, but I'm not seeing it here. And I'm not 100% sure why. So what I'll go ahead and do is anyone who still has questions, go ahead and send them to me via email. And what I'll do is make sure that we get these questions over to Big HR and get them all answered for you. All right. Thank you again, everybody. That'll conclude our session, as I stated, and I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a great day.